I couldn't believe it. Sharp metal spikes on my daughter's wheelchair ramp. My camera showed everything. Our neighbor Karen came at night and put those dangerous spikes there. She smiled like she won. She had no idea who I really was or what would happen next. Before watching full video, comment below from you watching, also like and subscribe for more stories. I woke up to my daughter Sophie's scream. I rushed outside to find my 12-year-old trying to navigate her wheelchair up our ramp. My heart stopped when I saw what happened overnight. "Dad! Be careful!" Sophie warned, tears running down her face. "I can't get up without getting hurt." Metal spikes lined both sides of the ramp we had installed just last month. Sharp, dangerous spikes that could seriously injure anyone who slipped while using the ramp. Sophie's small hands were already red from where she'd scraped them trying to push herself up. Who would do this? I whispered, kneeling to examine the cruel addition to our home. Sophie had been using a wheelchair since the accident 3 years ago. Getting this ramp approved by the HOA had been a 6-month battle, but finally Sophie had independence to enter our home on her own. Was it because of the meeting yesterday? Sophie asked quietly. That angry lady said our ramp was ugly. I carefully helped Sophie navigate between the spikes, lifting her wheelchair when needed. My blood boiled thinking about how someone deliberately endangered my child. This wasn't just mean, it was dangerous and illegal. "Don't worry, sweetie," I promised Sophie. "I'll find out who did this." I had no idea the security camera would reveal something so shocking. I couldn't stop shaking as I took photos of the metal spikes. Who would do something so cruel? Those spikes could have seriously injured Sophie if she had slipped even slightly while using her ramp. I called the police immediately to file a report. "This is definitely intentional damage to your property, sir," Officer Reynolds said while taking notes. "And it could be classified as a hate crime since it targets your daughter's disability access." "I want to know who did this," I said through gritted teeth. "I have security cameras. I installed them after the HOA gave us trouble about the ramp." Officer Reynolds nodded. "Good thinking. We'll need that footage." After the police left, I sat at my computer and pulled up the security recordings from overnight. The time stamp showed 1:43 a.m. when a figure in dark clothing appeared at the edge of our property. I leaned closer to the screen, my blood running cold as I recognized the person. Martha Wilkins, the most vocal HOA board member who had fought against our ramp installation. The same woman who had called our necessary accessibility feature an eyesore and property value destroyer at yesterday's neighborhood meeting. The footage clearly showed Martha methodically attaching metal spikes along both sides of Sophie's ramp. She worked quickly, wearing gloves, using some kind of adhesive to secure them. The worst part was her face, illuminated briefly when she looked up, showing a satisfied smile as she completed her task. I saved multiple copies of the video and sent one to Officer Reynolds immediately. Then I called my brother, who had always advised me to keep my profession private in our neighborhood. "They've gone too far this time, James," I told him, my voice breaking. "They targeted Sophie. My daughter." "Don't reveal who you are yet," my brother cautioned. "Get everything documented first. Build your case like you would in court." He was right. 20 years as a federal judge had taught me to be methodical, to follow procedure. But this wasn't just a case. This was personal. The next day, I invited Officer Reynolds back to review the enhanced security footage. The recording was crystal clear, Martha Wilkins spending nearly 40 minutes installing the dangerous spikes along Sophie's ramp. "This is open and shut," Officer Reynolds said. "We can arrest her today for property damage, creating a hazardous condition, and possible hate crime charges." "Not yet," I replied. "I want to understand if she acted alone or if the entire HOA board was involved." While Sophie stayed with my sister for safety, I installed additional hidden cameras around our property. Then I waited for Martha to make her next move. I didn't wait long. That afternoon, Martha led a small group of HOA members on a neighborhood inspection. They stopped directly in front of our house, pointing at the ramp. The spikes were just phase 1, Martha told the group, not realizing her words were being captured by my new directional microphone. He'll have to remove that monstrosity now. No one wants to look at a hospital entrance in a premium neighborhood. An older man in the group looked uncomfortable. Martha, it's for a disabled child. Maybe we should. Property values, Richard, Martha cut him off sharply. We're protecting everyone's investment. Besides, I checked with my cousin who's a lawyer. They can't prove who placed those spikes. I had heard enough. I saved this new evidence and called Officer Reynolds again. The next morning, I met with longtime residents who had previously clashed with Martha and the HOA board. Their stories painted a disturbing pattern. She forced the Johnsons to remove their son's basketball hoop because it was street clutter, explained my neighbor Mrs. Garcia. Their boy was getting a college scholarship for basketball and needed to practice. She made the Patels paint their front door because the yellow color was too ethnic, another neighbor added. They moved out 3 months later. I collected written statements from 12 families who had been targeted by Martha's selective enforcement of HOA rules. The pattern was clear: she specifically targeted families with children, minorities, and anyone who challenged her authority. At the neighborhood coffee shop, I bumped into Richard, the man who had shown concern in Martha's inspection group. I wanted to apologize for what happened to your daughter's ramp, he said quietly. Some of us didn't know Martha would go that far. Was this an official HOA action? I asked. Richard looked around nervously. Martha called an emergency executive session with just her 3 closest allies on the board. The rest of us weren't notified until after. She claimed your ramp violated some obscure guideline that wasn't in the original covenant. Would you be willing to put that in writing? I asked. He hesitated, then nodded. Yes. This has gone too far. By the end of the week, I had statements from 2 HOA board members confirming Martha had acted without proper authority. The case against her was growing stronger. I requested an emergency HOA meeting to address the situation. Martha couldn't refuse without raising suspicion, so the meeting was scheduled for Friday evening in the community center. Nearly every homeowner attended. I brought Sophie with me, wanting everyone to see the child their HOA president had endangered. The purpose of this ramp is simple, I began, standing beside Sophie's wheelchair. It allows my daughter to enter and exit our home safely and independently. I displayed large photos of the metal spikes that had been attached to the ramp. These were installed illegally in the middle of the night. They created a serious safety hazard for my 12-year-old daughter, who has limited mobility following a car accident 3 years ago. Martha interrupted, her voice sharp. While we don't condone vandalism, the fact remains that the ramp was approved under questionable circumstances. The Architectural Review Committee has reconsidered its decision. The ramp meets all county building codes, I countered. HOA guidelines supersede county recommendations, Martha declared with a dismissive wave. I looked directly at her. Are you saying the HOA guidelines supersede federal law as well? Martha's expression faltered momentarily. We're simply enforcing the aesthetic standards all homeowners agreed to when purchasing property here. My daughter's safety and accessibility are not aesthetic issues, Ms. Wilkins. They are her legal rights. Rights can be limited by contracts, Martha replied smugly. You signed our HOA agreement. I projected the security camera footage onto the wall. The room fell silent as everyone watched Martha installing the dangerous spikes. This meeting isn't about the ramp anymore, I said quietly. It's about criminal activity conducted by your HOA president. After the meeting, Martha approached me in the parking lot, her face flushed with anger. You've made a serious mistake, she hissed. That video could have been doctored. You'll be hearing from my attorney. I welcome that, I replied calmly. I have the original footage secured with blockchain verification. It can't be altered or disputed. This isn't over, Martha threatened. That ramp is coming down one way or another. The HOA has a legal fund specifically for troublemakers like you. Why is this so important to you? I asked. It's just a ramp. It's about standards, she snapped. Allow one exception, and suddenly everyone wants special treatment. Next thing you know, we'll have lawn ornaments and clotheslines turning this neighborhood into a trailer park. My daughter's disability access is not comparable to lawn ornaments. Martha stepped closer. I've dealt with people like you before. Playing the sympathy card won't work. Remove that eyesore by Monday, or we'll place a lien on your property for ongoing HOA violations. Are you officially threatening me as HOA president? Absolutely, she said, not bothering to lower her voice despite the people walking nearby. The board votes how I tell them to vote. You can't win this. Little did she know, I had my phone recording in my pocket, capturing every word. The next morning, a courier delivered a cease and desist letter from Wilkins and Associates Legal Group, Martha's cousin's law firm. The letter demanded immediate removal of the ramp and all recording devices facing common area property. I analyzed the letter carefully. It contained multiple legal errors and misrepresentations of HOA authority. More importantly, it threatened action that would violate the Americans with Disabilities Act. My phone rang. It was Martha. Did you receive our correspondence? She asked, her voice dripping with false professionalism. I did. There are several legal problems with your demands. Save it for court, she replied. We've scheduled an emergency vote for tomorrow to amend the HOA bylaws. All exterior modifications will require renewal every 30 days, including your precious ramp. That would be selective enforcement targeting my disabled daughter. It applies to everyone equally, Martha countered. That's the beauty of it. If you can't keep up with the paperwork, that's your problem. This is harassment, Martha. It's community standards enforcement. The vote is tomorrow at 4 p.m. I wouldn't bother attending, the outcome is already decided. After hanging up, I made 3 phone calls. The first to the county ADA compliance office. The second to a respected civil rights attorney I had worked with on several federal cases. The third to the local news station's investigative team. It was time to end Martha's reign of harassment once and for all. The emergency HOA meeting was held in the community clubhouse. Martha had strategically scheduled it for 4 p.m. on a workday, ensuring minimal attendance. She seemed surprised when nearly every homeowner showed up. Even more surprising to her was the news van parked outside. What is the meaning of this? She demanded as I walked in with Sophie, followed by 2 individuals in professional attire. Public interest in HOA governance, I replied. Shall we begin? Martha rushed through the agenda, finally reaching the new amendment requiring monthly renewals for all exterior modifications. This amendment protects our community standards by ensuring regular review of all exterior elements, Martha explained. All those in favor? Before we vote, I interrupted, standing up. I'd like to introduce some relevant information. This isn't a debate, Martha snapped. We're taking a vote. Martha Wilkins, I said, my voice taking on the formal tone I used in my courtroom, you are currently proposing an amendment that directly violates the Fair Housing Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act. The room fell silent. Furthermore, you have engaged in criminal property damage, harassment, and civil rights violations. Your actions regarding my daughter's wheelchair ramp constitute a hate crime under federal statutes. Martha's face reddened. Who do you think you are? I nodded to my companions, who handed out folders to each board member. I am Federal Judge William Anderson, United States District Court. I've kept my profession private since moving here 2 years ago, preferring to be known simply as Sophie's father. Martha's mouth fell open. The room erupted in whispers. These folders contain documentation of systematic discrimination by this HOA under Ms. Wilkins' leadership. The gentleman to my left is Special Agent Thomas from the FBI Civil Rights Division. The woman to my right is County ADA Compliance Director Ms. Jimenez. Martha stood up, her voice shaking. This is ridiculous. You can't intimidate us with government officials. This isn't intimidation, Ms. Wilkins. This is accountability. Agent Thomas has a warrant for your arrest based on the hate crime you committed against my daughter. A hate crime? That's absurd. Martha sputtered. Targeting a disabled child's accessibility equipment is classified as a hate crime, Agent Thomas explained, approaching Martha. We have video evidence, witnesses, and your own recorded statements confirming your intent. As Agent Thomas read Martha her rights, I addressed the stunned HOA board members. This board has two options. Resign immediately and allow for emergency elections, or face joint liability in the federal civil rights case being filed tomorrow morning. By meeting's end, Martha was in custody, and every board member had submitted their resignation. The local news covered Martha's arrest extensively. HOA president arrested for hate crime against disabled child made headlines across the state. As details emerged about her history of discriminatory practices, more families came forward with their experiences. Martha's cousin's law firm quickly distanced themselves, claiming she had used their letterhead without permission. Her real estate business collapsed as clients withdrew listings. 3 weeks later, Martha appeared before my colleague Judge Rodriguez for arraignment. She faced federal charges for civil rights violations, plus state charges for property damage, reckless endangerment, and filing false legal documents. No longer smug, Martha accepted a plea deal, guilty on all counts in exchange for a reduced sentence of 1 year in prison, followed by 5 years of probation. She was also ordered to pay $75,000 in damages to disability advocacy organizations. The most fitting part of her sentence was the 2,000 hours of community service she would perform after her release, all at facilities serving people with disabilities. The HOA itself underwent a complete transformation. New elections brought in a diverse board focused on creating an inclusive community. Their first official act was to adopt new bylaws that specifically protected accessibility modifications and established an anti-discrimination policy. The weekend after Martha's arrest, I woke to the sound of vehicles outside our home. Looking out the window, I was shocked to see dozens of neighbors gathered on our front lawn. "What's happening, Dad?" Sophie asked, wheeling herself to the window. "I'm not sure," I admitted, concerned until I noticed Richard, the former HOA board member, directing people who were unloading lumber and supplies. We went outside to investigate and were greeted with applause. "We're here to rebuild Sophie's ramp," Richard explained. "But not just rebuild it, we're making it better." The community had pooled resources to construct a beautiful, durable ramp with gentle curves and integrated planters. A local contractor who specialized in accessible design had donated his services to create something both functional and attractive. "We wanted to show that this neighborhood isn't what Martha made it out to be," explained Mrs. Garcia, holding a tray of homemade cookies. "We care about each other here." Throughout the weekend, families worked together on the project. Children Sophie's age introduced themselves, forming new friendships. What had been an act of cruelty transformed into a powerful community healing moment. By Sunday evening, the new ramp was complete, wider, safer, and lined with colorful flowers in built-in planters. Solar-powered lights were embedded along the edges for safety at night. "This is way better than before," Sophie exclaimed, easily navigating the gentle slope. "It's beautiful." Richard handed me an envelope. We also took a collection. "There's enough here to build an accessible playground in the community park. We'd like to name it after Sophie, if that's okay." Tears filled my eyes as I nodded, unable to speak. Sophie's victory and Martha's community service. 6 months later, Sophie's playground opened in our community park, the first fully accessible playground in the county. Children of all abilities could play together on equipment specifically designed for inclusion. Sophie cut the ribbon at the grand opening ceremony, her smile brighter than I'd seen since before her accident. Local news covered the event, highlighting how a community had transformed a discriminatory incident into positive change. As for Martha, after serving her prison sentence, she began her community service at the very playground named after the child she had targeted. Under court supervision, she maintained the accessible equipment and assisted with programs for children with disabilities. Initially resentful, something changed in Martha after working with these children. During the final month of her service, she approached Sophie and me at the playground. "I want to apologize," she said, her usual confidence replaced with genuine remorse. "What I did was inexcusable. Working here has shown me how wrong I was." Sophie studied Martha's face carefully before responding. "Everyone deserves a second chance. That's what Dad always says in his courtroom." Martha nodded, tears in her eyes. "Your father is a wise judge. And you, Sophie, are an even wiser young lady." After completing her service, Martha moved away but sent annual donations to disability organizations. The incident that began with hateful spikes ended with a transformed community and, perhaps more surprisingly, a transformed Martha. Our neighborhood became known throughout the region as a model for accessibility and inclusion. Other HOAs consulted with our new board about implementing similar policies. As for Sophie, the experience taught her something powerful about justice and community. At her middle school graduation 2 years later, she delivered a speech about turning obstacles into opportunities and enemies into educators. "Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best changes," she told the audience. "And sometimes, justice comes in unexpected ways. I couldn't have said it better myself."